Picture this. You're sitting inside a heated house, furnace humming, 2 blankets on your lap, thick socks on your feet, and still you're grumbling about the cold. Now roll the clock back 600 years. Out on the Great Plains, a Lakota family curls up in a buffalo hide teepee. Outside, the wind is howling like a pack of wolves, snow piling up against the canvas walls. Inside, they wake up in the morning like it's just another Tuesday. No thermostat, no electric blanket, not even a brick wall, just hides, fire, and knowledge passed down. And here's the thing, this wasn't a freak storm. Winters on the plains routinely dropped below -20 Celsius or -4 Fahrenheit every single year. Families didn't just endure them, they slept through them. So the real question is, tonight, if you had to choose, would you trust the portable teepee or the buried deep earth lodge to keep you alive? Let me paint you a picture. Out on the wide open plains, life split in 2 very different directions. On one side, you had the horse people, the Lakota, the Cheyenne, the Comanche, nomads who followed the buffalo herds like a shadow. Their homes, the teepee, long poles of lodgepole pine covered with buffalo hides, tall, light, easy to pack, easy to raise. A family could strike camp in less than an hour, loaded onto a travois, and be riding after the herd before sunrise. Women led the building, setting the tripod, stretching the hides, managing the smoke flaps. It wasn't just canvas in the wind. It was mobile survival designed for a life that never stayed put. Now flip the coin. Up along the Missouri River, you'd find the Mandan, the Hidatsa, the Arikara, farmers, traders, people who stayed. Their homes, earth lodges. Picture a heavy timber frame 15 to 20 feet across, buried under layers of sod and earth, 2, sometimes 3 feet thick. In the winter, those walls held heat the way a stone oven holds bread. In summer, they stayed cool, like a cellar. An earth lodge could house 30, even 40 people with a central fire burning day and night. These weren't tents. They were fortresses of soil and wood, built to outlast seasons, not just storms. Archaeologists and journals from the 1700s back this up. Explorers noted that Mandan lodges stayed comfortably warm even when outside wind chill dropped below -20 Celsius, -4 Fahrenheit. That's not a fairy tale. That's physics, thermal mass, airflow, insulation, long before fiberglass was ever dreamed of. And here's the kicker. Today we swap houses like we swap phone plans. You don't like the kitchen, you move. You don't like the neighbors, you sell. Back then, the stakes were sharper. Choosing wrong wasn't about noisy dogs or bad schools. Choosing wrong meant your children, your elders, maybe your whole family froze stiff before dawn. That, my friends, was survival real estate, the highest stakes house hunt you can imagine. So next time you look at a teepee or an earth lodge in a museum photo and think it looks flimsy, remember, those designs kept families alive through winters that would leave most of us today crying over a broken thermostat. All right, now comes the real test. To see which shelter really works, we set them up side by side. A teepee on one side of the clearing, an earth lodge on the other, both scaled down to fit the test but built by the book. Lodgepole pine poles lashed tight, buffalo hides stretched and staked for the teepee, heavy timbers buried in sod and earth for the lodge. 2 very different blueprints, both born from centuries of trial and error. And here's what people forget. The old folks didn't just drop camp wherever the horse stopped. No, they read the land. They knew the wind like they knew their own heartbeat. You pitch on an open plain, that's suicide. The wind cuts sharper than a banker's handshake. But tuck the teepee behind a tree line. Suddenly you've bought yourself a wall of protection. Same with rock faces. Those cliffs soaked up sunlight all day, then leaked it out slow through the night. Set your lodge close enough to catch the warmth, but not so close the snow slides bury you alive. Even valleys could work if you had the skill, nestled low shielded from the gusts. But pick the wrong hollow and cold air sinks in like water in a bowl. Sleep there and you're colder than ice fishing without gloves. And firewood. Don't ever forget firewood. In the old days, fuel was currency. Families looked for deadfall nearby cottonwood elm, whatever would burn. Because running out in the middle of a storm didn't just mean cold, it meant game over. So here's your checklist carved straight from their wisdom. 1. Find a natural windbreak. 2. Stay close to wood fuel. 3. Build a barrier between you and the frozen ground. Mats, grass, hides, anything. That's it. Location, location, location. Not for resale value, not for the school district. For life or death. Pick right, and you'll sleep through the storm. Pick wrong, and by sunrise, you're just another popsicle on the prairie. Now picture this. A buffalo hide teepee standing out in the middle of a frozen prairie. Snow whipping sideways, wind howling like a pack of wolves trying to claw their way in. Inside, the fire crackles in a shallow pit. The warmth rises quick. You feel it on your hands, your face. For a moment, it's almost cozy. But then the wind shifts. A draft slices through the hide like a knife through canvas. That warmth gone in a heartbeat. 1 minute you're sweating, the next your toes are numb. That was the paradox of the teepee, portable, light, and fast, but always at war with the wind. Families managed it with skill. Adjustable smoke flaps at the top, small vents near the bottom, primitive HVAC centuries before the term existed. But here's the rub, every flap you open for airflow is another crack for the cold to creep in. And it wasn't a set it and forget it shelter. No sir, somebody had to stay awake all night, feeding the fire, nudging the logs, making sure sparks didn't set the hide ablaze. I've done army tent duty in a snowstorm. It's the same drill. You're not sleeping. You're babysitting a fire that's holding everyone's life in its hands. Let me give you a checklist of what every Tipi family knew by heart. Keep the fire small, steady, never roaring. Angle your smoke flaps with the wind. Get it wrong, the whole place fills with smoke. Rotate watch duty. One tired adult could mean one frozen family. And here's the hard truth. A tipi wasn't luxury. It was survival on a knife's edge. Warmth came fast, but it slipped away even faster. Think of it as living inside a paper grocery bag, except that bag is the only thing standing between your children and a -20 Celsius blizzard. Archaeologists note that Plains tribes thrived with this system because mobility was survival. When the buffalo moved, the people moved. You couldn't drag an earth lodge across the prairie, but you could strike a tipi, hitch it to a horse, and be gone by dawn. So yes, the tipi kept people alive, but it demanded constant attention, constant fire, and constant respect for the wind. Miss a detail, and you weren't waking up warm, you weren't waking up at all. Now step inside the earth lodge. Outside, the blizzard roars. Snow drifts pile against the rounded roof. The wind screams across the prairie like a hungry beast. But in here, quiet, heavy, still, like the earth itself is holding you. The fire burns low at the center pit. The heat doesn't rush. It seeps, slowly, into the thick walls, into the packed sod roof. Those walls, too, sometimes 3 feet thick, are like a giant thermal battery. They soak up sun all day, then bleed warmth back through the night. No thermostat, no furnace, just dirt, grass, wood, and physics. I once dug a snow cave to ride out a storm, and the feeling is the same. Outside, the gale tears at everything it touches. Inside, you could almost believe it's late autumn again. Calm, bearable, even comfortable. Archaeologists tell us Mandan lodges could hold 30 or 40 people fire burning day and night. Lewis and Clark, wintering with the Mandan in 1804, wrote in their journals that the lodges stayed warm and cheerful even while the Missouri River froze solid. That's not nostalgia, it's documented survival. And here's the checklist that makes the Earth Lodge a fortress. Thick timber frame sunk deep for strength. Sod and earth piled heavy for insulation. Smoke hole above draft channels low, so air flows steady. Sleeping benches raised off the frozen ground. The difference is night and day. In a teepee, you're fighting the wind every hour. In an earth lodge, the wind can scream all at once, you barely hear it. The lodge doesn't just resist the cold, It swallows it, holds it down, and leaves you a pocket of warmth. Of course, it wasn't portable. You couldn't pack this fortress and chase buffalo, but if you were settled farming corn, storing squash, trading with neighbors, this was winter security. A home that turned 20 Celsius nights into something you could actually sleep through. So when I say the Earth Lodge feels like the ground itself is protecting you, I mean it. Step inside one and you realize this isn't just shelter, it's strategy. It's the land teaching people how to outlast the storm. All right, pull a little closer to the fire. Let me tell you what we found. We put the thermometer in both shelters. And the story it told was clear. Inside the teepee, the fire did its job. It warmed the air quick up close to freezing 0 Celsius, sometimes a hair above. But the teepee is a light tent, just hides on poles. Every time the wind screamed, it cut straight through, warm 1 minute, cold the next. Like trying to sleep in a Walmart tent, only the stakes were life and death. Now the Earth Lodge, that was different. Walk in and the storm fades away. The needle held steady, 6-8, sometimes 10 degrees Celsius. Not cozy like a cabin, but when it's -20 outside, that's a fortress. That steadiness, that's what saves you. Why the difference? Simple physics our ancestors learned without books. The lodge had thermal mass. Those thick dirt walls sucked in heat like a sponge all day, then leaked it back slow all night. The teepee ran on airflow. Great for clearing smoke, but every draft carried your warmth right out with it. Primitive HVAC, you got heat and smoke control, but also a constant trade-off with the cold. And then there's moisture. In the teepee, warm breath, hit cold hide, and water drip down the inside walls. Damp bedding in winter is bad news. In the lodge, the walls stayed closer to room temperature, less condensation, less misery. So here are the do's and don'ts I'd pass around, same as a checklist by the fire. Tipi. Do. Face your smoke flaps with the wind and hang a liner inside if you've got one. Tipi. Don't. Never underestimate firewood. You'll chew through piles of it by midnight. Earth Lodge. Do. Leave a vent gap. Raise your bedding off the dirt. Earth Lodge. Don't burn green wood. You'll choke yourself out with smoke. The lesson, the teepee is fast, light, and mobile, but always at the mercy of the wind. The Earth Lodge is heavy, slow to build, but once you're inside, you're cradled by the ground itself. Both work if you respect their rules. And knowing those rules, my friends, might be the difference between waking up alive or colder than a banker's handshake. So here's the choice, plain and simple. If I were a horseback hunter chasing buffalo across the plains, needing a roof just for the night, I'd pick the teepee. Light, fast, easy to raise before the sun drops. You pack it at dawn, ride by noon, sleep again by dusk. That mobility kept whole nations alive. But if I were facing a full winter week after week of -20 blizzards, I'd choose the Earth Lodge. Every time. Thick walls, steady heat, a place where family could ride out the storms together. That wasn't just shelter. That was strategy, patience, community. And here's the truth. I keep circling back to these weren't just houses. They were survival tools. One portable, one permanent. Both tuned to the land, both carved out by centuries of hard lessons. No thermostat, no gas line, no brick wall, just hides, earth fire, and knowledge. The teepee was like a canvas tent with wisdom baked in primitive HVAC, adjustable flaps, liners that turned draft into comfort. The Earth Lodge was a slow-burn battery walls like a giant sun-charged stone. You could call one fragile, the other stubborn, but both worked because people knew exactly how to use them. That's the real inheritance here. Not just architecture, but a way of thinking. Reading wind like a compass. Treating fuel like currency. Building warmth from the ground up, literally. I've dug snow caves myself, and the feeling is the same outside. The blizzard screams inside. The silence is thick as summer earth. So when I sit here tonight, fire crackling low, I think of those ancestors. They weren't weak. They weren't lucky. They were deliberate. They took on the cold with brains, not gadgets. And the fact we're still talking about their shelters 600 years later, that's proof they left us more than walls. They left us a blueprint. Maybe that's the lesson worth keeping. In a world full of buttons and switches, sometimes the real survival hack is older than any of us. So what about you? If you had to face a night at -20, would you choose the light Teepee or the earthbound fortress? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's keep that fire and that knowledge burning. All right, brothers, before we let this fire burn down, I've got a question for you. What was the coldest night of your life? -10, -30. Did you tough it out in an army tent, a deer blind, maybe even the cab of a truck with the heater dead? And most of all, how did you get through it? Share it in the comments, because this fire here, it's not just for warmth. It's for passing stories so the next man doesn't freeze where we once struggled. And hey, if tonight's test sparked something in you, wait until next time. We're putting a snow cave head-to-head with a modern tent. Old world ice versus nylon tech. That one's going to separate the armchair campers from the diehards. Remember this, friends. Winter is not the enemy. It's the teacher. If you listen close, every storm brings a lesson, and each lesson we keep, that's the fire we pass forward for tomorrow, for each other, for those yet to come.